If you two are willing to pay full boat for the kids to go to college, then your kids should go. It's really fun. You have to figure out your 12 and 14-year-old. You can't make them go to college as an ideology because it was what you were supposed to do. Do you know what kind of stigma it would have been for us if our children were 30 or 20 today? We were too vulnerable to the judgment of everybody else and the stigma of your child not going to college. And so we just all pushed them through, including parents. Parents took on the debt. Kids took on the debt. Compared to even 10 years ago, there are many more parents in America today that are comfortable with the idea of telling their friends or family, Sally and Johnny are not going to college, they're gonna start their business or they're going right to work, versus 10 years ago. And that's a beautiful thing for both of you and your children. There's a lot of children that should go to college. People bring up the social values all the time. I agree, but you don't have to go to a place that kills you financially to get social skills. You could just go somewhere. My point of view on college is it's not for everyone at scale. Attention is the #1 asset.
Let's start with the beginning. What inspired you? Was there something in your life that happened that you said this would make a great story?
Not that, Roseanne. I think, obviously looking around the faces, several people here are aware that I'm on this incredible journey of building out this VeeFriends universe. We're into year 3 now, and when I decided to do it, I decided that it was something that I was gonna work on for my entire career. And that decision was based on the fact that at that point I'd lived 10 years, 15 years of being a public figure, talking about business advice, originally wine advice, as you know, and some of you know. Then it started going into hardcore business and marketing advice. And then along the way, I realized, or more importantly, I was asking myself why so many people were not doing the things that I was talking about. And I realized that became more of like life stuff, self-esteem, insecurities. It became perspective. And that caught my attention, and for the people that I see in the crowd that have been following me for a longer period of time, that's how my content kind of evolved. What started to become clear to me is if you're trying to fix self-esteem, or if you're trying to fix accountability, or if you're trying to fix tenacity or entitlement issues, or whatever it might be, it's a lot better to be building out those foundational blocks when you're 5, 7, 10, and 12 versus what many of us as we're sitting here are going through as adults and trying to tweak and fix things that maybe we didn't get in our childhood. And that was very motivating to me. And so that was a challenge though, because I was Gary Vee making content. It was getting younger, especially when TikTok came out. That was when I really was able to start really affecting 14, 15, 16, 17. And that was very fruitful for me. I was very affected by those years in having, young teens, people before they were 20 coming up to me, and I could see it. I could see in those 3, 4, 5 years that getting to a 15-year-old around accountability and kindness was actually more effective by the time they were 18 and 19 than getting to a 24-year-old and seeing where they would end up at 28. It hit me, it was obvious to me. All of that is a long-winded way to say that I promised myself before I exited this game of Earth that I would want to get younger at some point, but I didn't know how because my vehicle was me, the person, and I didn't think that I was going to be Mr. Rogers. That was not in the cards, especially with the way I talk. Then came along the NFT summer. It got me into the part of my life that I've been passionate about as well along the way, which is intellectual property. I saw the opportunity and I decided to build the VeeFriends world as a digital collectible first, now as a physical collectible. And then when I was drawing those characters 3 years ago, there's film on this. I'm talking about the day that I'll write a children's book, which will allow me, and literally sitting in Malibu 3 years ago, thinking about it, here we are today, and the children's book is here. And so I thank HarperCollins, my team, and everybody else. This is a really eventful day for me, especially because I'm now starting to see the first pieces of content of parents reading the book to kids. And that content's very compelling because these are really 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old kids. And so you're getting all that incredible overreaction on video. And it's very special to be here, and I really appreciate you being here to share my special
I love
day.
being here. First of all, I know Gary. I know Larry a long time. I've been up since 4:30 in the morning, not like 4:30 this afternoon. I wanted to take that.
Both would have been acceptable.
But I know Gary since, he basically brought his family's wine business into another stratosphere. And I was so attracted to listening to his story because I come from a family business. And at that time, you were all about social media, and here you are, not only in the social media business, but you've taken over the world with so many various businesses that you're involved with. This is kind of interesting, going back to the kids, because we've been talking a lot, and we talked a little bit about this on our show this morning, about social media and children, and them not having the social skills because everything is on the phone.
Yeah, my point of view is that social skills get redefined, right? Like social norms get redefined. Even 5 minutes ago, AKA 2009, excuse me, when I started my public speaking career, my speaking agent and the people around me begged me to wear a suit and begged me to stop cursing. Begged me. This is only 15 years ago, which is crazy to think 2009 is 15 years ago, but only 15 years ago, the business world was still incredibly dramatically less casual, right? Let me use another comp back to social norms or social skills. Every single person here used to dress up in a suit and a gown to take a flight at the airport. In the 1960s, if you go watch how people dressed to take a flight, you would be flabbergasted. Now we've gone completely the opposite way. People are wearing their pajamas to the airport for comfort. So, listen, I'm empathetic to listen, you and I have a real incredibly nice relationship, and it's because I think a lot of our family roots are similar. So I am the biggest fan of old school values. I respect why people are incredibly passionate about look the man in the eyes and shake his hand. It's romantic. I like it. I get it. Comma, I do think the world evolves. And yes, kids are less social in the way that we grew up, which is they may not be walking into rooms like this and having conversations. They're more comfortable in their phone. I would argue that in 1984, 70% of the people that went to a cocktail party or were in a public settings were also introverted, and they just didn't have a phone to look down on, but they were very quiet in the corner, or they picked one person that they found and they spoke to, and they were not very social. Being introverted is not changed because of technology. Your options when you're an introvert have changed because you can go to the phone.
But don't they say that, some of this Instagram, whatever, it makes you feel lonely, you're not at these parties, you have FOMO, you're depressed. There's now a movement whether to ban children on social media at schools and things like that.
Look, the balance of government telling you how to parent your child and parents parenting children is an always pendulum swing. I believe that first and foremost, any blanket answer to this question is wrong because everybody has an individual child that plays this individually different. I believe that we are in the process of demonizing social media as our excuse. And I believe we're actually treating social media, these conversations you're talking about, similar to the way we decided to treat alcohol in America in the late 1920s and 1930s. We decided to blame alcohol instead of ourselves. And so to remind all the people in this room who might not be historians, we're one of the only countries in the world that banned alcohol. We banned it. And we banned it, it was called prohibition, and alcohol was illegal in the United States of America 100 years ago for several years. And then we repealed that amendment because what happened in that decade is we realized alcohol wasn't the problem, we were the problem. I believe that parents have conveniently got lucky that social media exists right now so that they can blame social media instead of themselves for their misparenting. Let me give you a for instance, Rosanna. When I'm at the airport, let's use that since I just used it, and people roll up on me and they're like, Gary Vee, I like you. I'm like, thank you. They're like, but I got a problem with you. I'm like, what? This social media thing. I gotta tell you, Gary, my kid, he's 14, and I think this social media thing is dangerous. I'm scared, like they talk to me for real. They're like yelling at me and using me for therapy all in once. And they're like, I'm really scared of this, and I think it'd be, and then with the politics, like, and China and all this stuff. And then I just look at them, I'm like, so then be a parent. When my mom thought things were bad for me, like alcohol or pornography or whatever it was, she made damn sure that I was not involved in it. I said to this gentleman recently, because it happens a lot, but this guy got a little bit hotter, and I'm like, don't put baby in the corner. Like, I'll get beat up a little bit, but if you push me a little too far, and this guy pushed me a little too far, and I said to him, so be a parent. If you're telling me that TikTok on your boy's phone is gonna ruin his life, then the hell are you talking to me about this for? Take the damn phone out of his hand. Delete TikTok off his phone and look at it every night. What are we talking about here? I believe we've lived through one of the great eras of non-accountability. I think that's where we're at. And I think everyone's blaming everyone. The state, the boss, your company, an influencer. Definitely all of a sudden everyone just thinks the president is the binary outcome to their lives. Good news, if you're a winner, you win with any kind of president. If you're losing with any kind of president. We are lacking accountability, and parenting is at the top of the list of things that we've given up on. We've decided that we are not willing to, and this is a very interesting thing, we talked about this earlier with 8th place trophies. I think it comes from a good place. I think parents of this generation, and when I say this generation, I mean the last 30 years. So we're talking a wide range. I believe that so many people that grew up in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s had parents that so didn't know what the hell they were doing. So many parents that were so politically incorrect. I grew up in the late 70s, early 80s predominantly, predominantly. I mean, anybody else that did knows that parents, forget about grounding, people got smacked and spanked. I had a belt hanging in my house when I was a kid. This is real. This is like, if you're like an animal, like I knew the belt sat there because if I got out of hand, we've so overcorrected from what we grew up with in the 50s, 60s, and 70s that in a quest to be more friendly with our children, we decided to become friends with our children, and that is not what children need. They need a parent, and so parents are scared to take the phone away from their child because they're friends with their children, not parents, and so they're gonna blame social media. If regulation needs to come, let regulation come. Just so everybody knows, I don't care if social media disappears tomorrow. I built my daddy's business with social media, but before I did that, I built it with direct mail and billboards and local television and radio and full page ads in the Star Ledger and the New York Times. I know how to market regardless of what you give me. Every social media platform could disappear. That'd be good for me because so much attention would go to so many other places, and I'm gonna be better at figuring out where than most people. So this is not a crusade for social. This is a crusade for human accountability. Everybody's walking around Earth acting like they're not in control of anything when you're in control of everything.
I feel like we're talking about your other book. Should we get back to
Ironically, Rosanna, you know what's so funny? Maybe 2 books ago, but we're talking about this book. We're talking about meeting in the middle. We're talking about what's really happening in society. We've lost balance. I just happen to be narrowing in on accountability right now. We have gone so full tilt. I can't do anything, so I won't vote. Really? Or I can't, everyone's got their hands up. So the reason I call this meeting me in the middle, and it's funny, I have my partners here from Harper, and originally this was about 2 different characters. I wanted to write this about optimistic otter and cynical cat. And then he yelled at me and said cynicism was too big of an idea for 40-year-olds. I was like, fair, let's move on. And so, but the framework of VeeFriends Meet Me in the Middle with 286 characters, I have the opportunity to write many Meet Me in the Middle books, and it is the thesis of VeeFriends. VeeFriends' ambition is to help people find balance, to get into the middle. Because when I look at the anxiety that we have in the world, it is fully predicated of being out of whack. As I was walking here to speak right now, right now, I was speaking to my chiropractor, Matt, on the phone, because right now my body's out of whack. He diagnosed me. If I look up and turn to, yeah, that hurts. So I've got to fix something. But my neck hurting right now is actually based on something that started on my pec that went to, like, the body's fully connected. So is life. And we are out of balance right now. And social media is exposing us. It's not changing us. People had FOMO in the 90s. People are like, but they look up to all these unbelievable standards. You mean Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, one of the biggest shows of the 80s? You mean MTV Cribs, one of the biggest shows? The game is always the same. Just because there's more information, I would argue with more information you can find more good stuff. With less information, people had plenty of FOMO too. Kate Moss used to be the pedestal when I was growing up in high school. She was 80 pounds. I watched girls in my high school go to the bathroom and throw up to stand up to that standard. Social media was 20 years away from even being invented. We are blaming the wrong thing. Middle is what we're looking for. And to now get into this book, the middle that we decided to choose on this one was the balance between being eager, which many of you are, because there's a lot of entrepreneurs in here, and patience, which I know anybody that follows me knows is one of my favorite things to talk about. The reason when we had to go a different course, that this one felt natural to me is, out of all the things I talk about in the world, patience bothers y'all the most. Having a winning audience, when I say patience, they hear complacency. And there's a reason there's two different words in the dictionary. Patience is not complacency. Patience is an incredibly important trait if you want to achieve something remarkable, like being a good parent. Patience is at the top of the list. Eagerness I love. I'm incredibly eager. I want to do a million things, right? Like, I've got a lot going on. Eagerness is amazing, but out of whack, just like when patience is out of whack, it's complacency and laziness. When eagerness is out of whack, you're sloppy. You're not being careful. You're being too loose, and it's not gonna work. And this tells the story of both of them going to play basketball, because competition matters. 8th place trophies suck. Winning matters, merit matters. Learning how to lose really matters. That's the biggest elephant in the room. And so this is the story of Patient Pig and Eager Eagle getting to the middle.
And the age group for this book is?
4 to 8.
4 to 8. And I love the fact that you kind of have to turn the book around and you kind of talk purple a little bit, right? The colors.
Yeah, my other book with Harper on the business side, Day Trading Attention, that currently just came out, has a purple cover, and that's again my nod to the middle. In a world of red and blue,
right,
which is really gonna be the topic between now and November, as we all know, the answer's purple. No, not full red, not full blue has it right, and we all know it. But unfortunately, the last 10 years, have been forced into fully choosing sides. All the magic's purple, all the magic's the middle. Balance is the game. You go too extreme to anything, you're not gonna win. And all of us have those tendencies. And I know when I'm too extreme on anything, I always look back and wish I was a little bit more centered. And I think that's the game.
Can we talk a little bit about the writing process?
Yes.
You've written 7 books?
Yes.
Is this 8 or 7?
Well, actually, there's a wine book that people forget about, Gary Vee's 101 Best Wines, which is a lot of fun. And then I've written 7 business books with HarperCollins, and this is the first kids book, so
okay.
9.
So is the process different?
This one was very different because with my business books, I basically record the book and then work with a ghostwriter. So those books are already made. Almost every business book I've ever written was written. It was whatever I was talking about the last 2 years, broken down and then into detail. This was obviously, I'm working directly with it's so short, it's so different. Plus, back to one of my favorite VeeFriends, Humbled Hedgehog, I had to have humility here. One thing that I would hope my team on the Harper side knows is on the creative process, both the illustration and the writing, I was very passive. And I was very passive because I know that I don't know the kids space as well. I feel very confident when I wrote Day Trading Attention that I know what to do for business books. But this is exciting for me because I'm learning through this
I
process.
feel like this could be like a cartoon. Do cartoons exist now? I don't even know.
So we have a very substantial thing brewing with cartoon coming into the fall and winter, so I'm excited about that. I'm gonna hold it a little more under wraps, but
okay.
Yeah, I mean, look, for me, this has always been the same thing. This has always been what I'm trying to do a Pokemon meets Sesame Street. Originally I called it Pokemon and Disney, or My Disney, but then once I started to understand Jim Henson more, Jim Henson's a really worthwhile individual to dig into. As I started building this, I realized that I have a lot more leave a positive impact on the world intent with the characters, and then the Pokemon part's really about the collectibles part. It's a very big part of VeeFriends, the digital collectibles, the physical collectibles. We've already done NFTs significantly and we'll continue to do that forever. Trading cards have become a big thing. Pins, like in Disney and Olympics are, and comic books have started. We've done one for gift codes. So, yeah, this is something I'd like to, I hope that your great grandchildren wear VeeFriends pajamas when they go to bed one day and you see that and you're like, my God, Gary really did this crap? That's crazy.
So what do you hope? I mean, this is a book, obviously.
Yes.
Young people can read.
Yes.
Or you can sit down with your children and read it to them. I see a few kids
Yep.
there. What do you hope parents and educators get out of this book so they can discuss with their children?
No, and by the way, that's what we've probably spent the beginning of this conversation about. I think we can all tell that I have a lot of purpose to impact the parent while they're reading this book as much as the kid. The cartoon play that I have is a really interesting model. This is the first time I'm talking about it at all. The cartoons are being made strictly to stop parents in their tracks while it's playing in the background for their kids, because I want to have these conversations. You know, what would I like to, I had somebody email me yesterday who's like a big YouTube family and the kids have read it every day for the last week and are really into it. And he flat out wrote in the email to me that he's like, it's funny, this made my wife and I pause a little bit because we're pushing these positive attributes on our kids, but it's very all or nothing. And it's making us think that like out of whack, kindness, when I talk about it. Sometimes people get triggered and like, Gary, nice guys finish last. And that's where kindness went out of whack, where you took your kindness to a place where now you're getting walked all over because you don't have the backbone to deliver candor. That's sometimes not even kindness, sometimes it's manipulation. Sometimes you do things with the hope that people do something in return. You're not being kind, you're being strategic. But I believe that we need to have more deep conversations. And I do believe we are very out of whack.
Yeah.
And so my hope here is that, even something like eagerness and patience, which I don't know, when people see this, you'd like to think both of them are good. But the way we told the story is they're good, but if you take them too far, there's a vulnerability. And so like hard work, talk about something you and I know.
Right.
Hard work is incredibly important. Out of whack, it turns into burnout or deep regret that you didn't spend time with your family. Right? Resting and taking care of yourself is remarkable. Not doing anything with your life is not gonna allow you to pay the bills. So finding the actual middle is something that I think is a lost art in 2024. And whether in kids book form or adult form, it's something I'm passionate to talk about.
I mean, patience we could all use. I just feel like New York City, the patience level is at zero because we live in such a crazy city where you gotta walk fast, you gotta get on the subway, the door's gonna close on you, you don't know who you're sitting next to, please dear God, let me get off this, train quickly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we all need patience in our daily life, and I when I was reading it, I was like, I think I have something to learn from this. I need a little bit, more patience.
Yeah, I think, it's just perspective. Mona and I were somewhere not too long ago and we were walking out of the store, or I was walking out of the store and I told her this story, but this just made me think of this. We were in this really nice place and there was like a really nice place that you could shop in that most people couldn't even afford to, and it was busy, and the person's reaction that was trying to get in the store because there's a lot of people walking out, was like, just so negative. Like, this is horrible. And I'm saying to myself, actually, I'll just use the details. I'm like, this is horrible. You're in the Hamptons going into a very expensive grocery store that 99% of people would dream that they could afford the food in this store, let alone be in the Hamptons during 4th of July. It's called perspective. What are you being upset about that 6 people are walking out of the store and you can't just walk right in? Patience has a very incredible relationship to perspective. People, like, I'm fast. I walk fast, I talk fast, I move fast, I do stuff, but that's micro. That's not the real game. The real game of patience is a whole different structure that I think we need. People want, but the best things take time to form, you know, and especially the more important it is, whether it's relationship or building a business or you're trying to build something meaningful. People always say, like, I just want it to happen now, or this is hard. The best things in the world should take time, and they should be hard. They're the best things in the world.
Beautiful. Okay, so you guys are share with the family and community. I believe we have some type of questions from you. Are we just limiting it to this?
No, I mean, look, so especially because I recognize so many faces here, I'm here for you. You can ask me anything you want.
Okay, anybody have a question? Hey, hold on, please go on.
Gary, I'm a day one humble hedge entrepreneur.
Wow, the shout out. That's amazing.
So we have a 12-year-old and 14-year-old. I've heard your thoughts on college.
Yes.
I'm curious. I haven't heard you kind of say the alternative though as much. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah.
You know, as we're moving.
I appreciate you giving me the platform because I think, again, in this fast world of just clips, I think a lot of things I talk about are potentially taken out of context. One of the reasons I like long form content is you can get the full thought across. I love short term content because it can build awareness and be the gateway to you, but sometimes out of context. So for example, I continue to fight making sure everyone hears me loud and clear on college. I do not believe that people that will not use their degree or are not good at school are put in the best position when they have to incur heavy debt to get a degree for a job that they will never get because of that degree. If your parents pay for your college, I think college is one of the great moves of all time. It's called a 4-year vacation. But what I worry about is entrepreneurs. If you are an entrepreneur, the great joke of society is teaching entrepreneurship. Teaching entrepreneurship is like teaching basketball. You can go into the classroom and talk about basketball for 4 years and knock yourself out. I promise you, you will get better at it if you go on the court and play it. Entrepreneurship requires action. You can learn basic principles. You can also chat GPT it right now and get the answer. So I think too much of the information that is in college and in every part of academia is commoditized information that is now at the fingertips of our children. It was when it was search. It is now even more advanced that it's AI. And the debt part has always been my whole thing of pounding on college was the debt. Because people couldn't get out of it. You know, forget about what's happened in modern politics where now it took the president of the United States, you couldn't declare bankruptcy. You could literally be a fraud, declare bankruptcy and get out of debt, and you couldn't declare bankruptcy and get out of college debt. It made no sense, it was wrong, it is wrong. Where I wanna go with college is you have to figure out your 12 and 14-year-old. You can't make them go to college as an ideology because it was what you were supposed to do. You were lucky. Your parents, like I am, in an era where we finally, you know what kind of stigma it would have been for us if our children, this is why you're starting to shake your head. If we had children that were 30 or 20 today, we were too vulnerable to the judgment of everybody else and the stigma of your child not going to college. And so we just all pushed them through, including parents. Parents took on the debt, kids took on the debt, all for half of them. For half of them. I'm just happy that you two, it's still out there, but geez, compared to even 10 years ago, there are many more parents in America today that are comfortable with the idea of telling their friends or family, Sally and Johnny are not going to college, they're gonna start their business or they're going right to work versus 10 years ago. And that's a beautiful thing for both of you and your children. There's a lot of children that should go to college. They'll grow up, they were over sheltered. People bring up the social values all the time. I agree, but you don't have to go to a place that kills you financially to get social skills. You could just go somewhere, but my point of view on college is it's not for everyone at scale. I personally subjectively have the number being at 50%, which is a humongous number. And I think a lot of people put themselves in a very precarious spot for a very long time by going for the ideology of the paper, which no longer, when we were growing up, you two, us two, you got jobs for that paper and the math worked out. College was way cheaper, the paper got you the actual job, and the math would work out in a 4-6 year window. Now you get the paper, nobody gives a shit. 80% of the jobs don't care. 20% still do. And it's a massive debt now. And again, it's very circumstantial. If you two are willing to pay full boat for the kids to go to college, then your kids should go. It's really fun. You don't do anything really, it's good. That's what I think about it.
We have time for 2 more questions, unfortunately, because we do need to get to our spending time.
Hi.
So as you can see, I wore Jets.
Yes, I like that.
My initials.
That's cool.
I know the backstory and I resonate because I come from very humble beginnings. So I define myself as multidimensional and intentional because I do everything. I'm a full-time influencer, content creator, social media manager, now founder for a mental health advocacy brand. And I wanted to pitch to you if I can give you my resume, portfolio, media.
Of course.
Because I recently applied for jobs with VaynerX, VaynerMedia, VeeFriends, and
Happy to take it. Happy to take it. Thank you. Good luck. Just make sure I don't lose this. Put it on my desk for tomorrow. Thank you.
Okay, we have 2 questions.
Hey Gary, thanks so much. This is amazing.
Thank you.
So you mentioned about with college, like entrepreneurial.
Yes.
And one of the things I remember hearing you comment on, so I've run Catapult Dream Job for like 10 years, and I love impacting people's lives in this way. And also I remember when you talked about, are you an entrepreneur or do you have entrepreneurial tendencies? And I will tell you late at night when we're like, fighting it through, and I'm like, at heart, I'm totally a fighter, and I will like do whatever. And then part of me is like, the balance we're talking about.
Yeah.
Should I just go back to Google?
Yes.
It's kind of easier. So I just wonder, how would you differentiate someone being an entrepreneur versus entrepreneurial tendencies? And really kind of saying what's going to set you up, kind of the balance.
So I have to be very careful here. This is my one human being's subjective opinion.
Fair.
I believe that a true, pure, 100% entrepreneur never had a job in their lives. Because you can't even wake up and think about ever working at Google. You would die. That's how I think about it.
I almost do.
Fair enough, but I think that's step one. The most alpha, pure, 100%, but I don't think that's the full definition. I just want to start there with that. It's a very tough question. Here's what I would say. My favorite part of what you just said is you're not going to have regret. The reason I'm so happy for you and proud of you is even if this fabulously fails, which 99% do, that's the part that everyone continues to be confused about. Entrepreneurship is the hardest. Almost everything fails. Almost everything. Even if it does, the fact that you get to be a 90-year-old woman and never do what everybody else does, which is, I wish I would have left Google and done this thing. So the fact that you're going through this journey is a huge win. I can't give you an answer that's gonna define if you're an entrepreneur or entrepreneurial tendencies. What I like is that you need to have grace for yourself to be willing to go back to Google once you decide you've had enough. Do not put I'm a fighter on a pedestal, put your happiness on a pedestal. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Like, too many people are scared to go back. And then it just gets worse. And you become stubborn because you're embarrassed it didn't work, and then you make your life worse. What I wanna give you is the one thing that I wish more people knew, which is the going for it is what's cool about you. Of course it'd be awesome if it worked, but don't go too far on trying to prove a point because there is a zero. So I hate when people don't get practical. They start selling their home or double mortgages, all to not be embarrassed amongst a small group of friends. Take the loss, because that's honorable. You know, to me in business, it's like sports. It's honorable to lose. And that is something that most people haven't brought to entrepreneurship. When people meet me and I talk to them and they're like, you know, I work at IBM, I tried entrepreneurship, I failed. I'm like, put up your head. 99% of people in this room are scared to jump and even try. So just make sure you do that, okay?
Love it.
Yeah. But nobody knows the answer if you're an entrepreneur. The results play out.
Well, and then the thing is, like, it's working out fine, but also some days you're like, okay.
Well, it's the thing that people don't realize with entrepreneurship is it's 24/7. There is no vacation.
Yeah.
The best part about working at Google is when the summer comes and you take 2 weeks off, you have the 2 weeks off.
Sure.
The only time I'm relaxed is during Thanksgiving, Christmas, when I know everybody's shut off. Otherwise, I'm stressed. You can't have a real vacation when you own something. It's like being a parent.
Yeah.
You're always worried.
Yeah. Thank
So we have last question.
Hey Gary.
How are you? Nice to meet you.
Follow you on your social media and all that. I have a question. I started my business 3 years ago, and it's a business that, I came from Colombia, I started a business here, and I started and all went well. It's a franchise business, and now after 3 years and a half right now that I have right now, the business is kind of struggling, and sometimes I don't want to give up. What would be your advice to an entrepreneur like me? I have another business, but this business is not doing very well, but I don't want to give up. I want to keep investing. What would be your advice?
Well, it's so funny that you asked the question right over here. So it sounds like you have another business. This business, you're the franchisee of a franchise, right? You're the franchisee. As you know, the other business, is it a franchisee also, or is it a different business that you run?
I just started from scratch.
Perfect, so you know what I'm about to say. On your other business, you're in full control. On this business, you're not. Franchisees, people that own a Dunkin' Donuts or own a McDonald's, they're entrepreneurial, but they're not full entrepreneur. They're an entrepreneur with training wheels. Corporate's helping you. And also corporate's pissing you off. Brother, I gotta tell you, it's so crazy. I actually think what I was just saying here applies to you tremendously. Please do not be you know what you're doing? You've got a successful business that you're fully in control of, and you're taking that money and pouring it into a business that you will never have control of.